Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Blue Stable Podcast episode. I'm your host, Marcus. Appreciate you guys for tuning in with us for another episode. This is the Week 10 matchup. The Buffalo Bills heading over to Indy against the Indianapolis Colts. This should be a show, a very interesting one. Two teams looking to solidify a playoff spot, and it's going to be a show, man, for sure. We got hot Josh Allen going up against a Joe Flacco offense that's looking for redemption. Should be interesting. Like I said, again, I'm your host, Marcus, but I'm not alone. I got my guy Landon with me. Landon, how we doing?
Doing great, man. Just another. I don't. I feel like I'm saying this pretty frequently now because it's just been true. Like it's another lovely day, like sun shining. I think it's right now 61 degrees outside. Like just doesn't get much better than that. As long as we don't have cold, rainy, nasty days, I'm generally doing really good. So yeah,
Love to hear. Love to hear, man.
pretty simple, right? I'm a simple person. Like it doesn't take much for me to have a good day. I wake
Hey,
up, my loved ones are healthy. We got good weather.
hey, nothing wrong with that. I love that too. I love
Well, I
simple-minded
just
people, man.
weird. Like this is weird. Kind of we're doing it live. I just got a notification. Um, I just got paid from Twitter.
Hey, look at that. Shout out to Twitter.
Which I've held off so long on doing the whole like the paying for Twitter because I think it's silly. Like I don't want to pay for a free app. But since somebody took over Twitter, we now have to pay to be able to broadcast the show on the app like we used to, which I thought was kind of silly. So we went ahead, I ponied up. I know the other, Blue Stable, we ponied up as well to be able to broadcast this to get it out to the people the way we're not just relying on, YouTube or Twitch or anything, because I think more people actually end up tuning into us on Twitter, as we saw last week. Had a great turnout. So already having a good turnout again today. So it seems like it's kind of paying for itself. Very interesting. Didn't really think that was a thing, but here we are.
Here we are.
There we are.
Look at this. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Not me. Not me.
Oh gosh. We are here to talk the preview game. This is going to be a very interesting one, honestly. This game could go both ways. But knowing the Colts, it probably go in the worst way. But before we head into all the conversation, we got to give you guys the injury report for both teams. I know it's not all Colts fans that watch this show, so we appreciate you guys from both sides. We are very positive minded, not very negative when it goes to teams and opposing thoughts. But we're going to give you the preview of the injury report for the Indianapolis Colts and the Buffalo Bills. We're going to give our thoughts on who's the most impactful that might miss the game or that might be hurt as well. So let's go over the Indianapolis Colts first. For the injury report, as you can see here, the first person that's on this list that's listed as out, and the only one that is out for this game as of right now is Michael Pittman Jr. with his back injury. Of course, this is the injury that Landon mentioned earlier in the season that nobody else really took eye into but him himself. He's a film watcher, so I have to give him credit where credit is due. But Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be missing this game with a back injury. In my opinion, personally, I think this is a good idea to just to rest him and make sure he gets back to full strength. Very pivotal player, very important and impactful player when he's on the field and he's dominating when healthy. He's a complete dog. And him just battling through injuries, he really showed good effort in and out throughout the games. But the injury's been lingering, and he's going to be sitting out this week. Landon, what's your thoughts on Michael Pittman Jr. missing this week?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it is, a blow for the Colts. I mean, anytime a player like him goes down, it's kind of try to mix and match and pick up the pieces. But, on the flip side of this, he hasn't really been playing his best ball the last few weeks. The injury seems to have really kind of taken its toll on him. So I think this could not only be a good move for the team, as far as maybe getting AD Mitchell more snaps, like you pointed out last week, and we pointed out earlier in the week, kid that needs more snaps, but it's going to also be really good for Michael Pittman Jr. in order to get himself right and get himself healthy. Should they be able to win this game, win next week, kind of try to make that win now playoff push that we've been told that they are in by management. Um, we'll see. But, if he can get healthy, if they end up making that push, I think him being healthier later in the season is more important than him playing hurt and not being able to produce to the level that he normally produces at right now.
I agree, 100%, 100%. To go back through this list really quickly, all these guys that I'm going to name, as you guys can probably hear this via Spotify or everywhere else, um, other guys I'm about to list for the Colts are going to be active to play this game, but they've been in and out of injuries through the practice week. Zaire Franklin, he's been battling injury, but he's going to be play. Matt Goncalves, he's going to play. He was dealing with injury, but he practiced. Hurricane Dio, he's going to play. Bernard Ryman's going to play. Braden Smith did not practice. Looked like he's going to play. DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart, two impactful players. Dogs never really practiced. They don't need to practice, but they'll be playing as well going into this week. We need all hands on deck against the Buffalo Bills. It's going to be an interesting one. Now, I'm going to head to the Buffalo Bills injury report. And Landon, I don't know if you've seen it, but Colts fans are used to this grocery shopping list when it comes to the injury report. But my goodness, I pray for Buffalo Bills fans. Look at this list. There's so many names I'm about to go down. Yes. When I seen it, they dropped it today. When I seen it, I was like, "This."
They take the injury report very seriously. Like,
absolutely,
if you have a splinter, you are going to be listed on the Bills injury report.
This is insane. But I'm going to go through the names that is out, and it's only one name, and that's a very crucial one. Keon Coleman, wide receiver, been having a really solid season his rookie year. Shout out to Keon Coleman, but he's going to be out. So that's going to be a weird one. I did mention Amari Cooper. He's been dealing with injury for the last 2 weeks. He's questionable. His wrist is damaged as well. He's questionable going into this game. Reggie Gilliam, fullback, dog. He's questionable with the hip. Josh Allen, he's going to play, but he has a left-hand injury. They got Christian Benford on the list. Terrell Bernard, Spencer Brown, Khair Elam, really solid corner. I like his game, but he's been dealing with injury, but he's going to play. They got Matt Collins on here, Teron Johnson, Daquan Jones, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Cam Lewis, Quentin Morris, Taylor Rapp, Curtis Samuel, Balin Spector, Casey Toohill, and Dorian Williams. Now, Landon, when you see this grocery shopping list and how many players that's willing to play through the injuries but still injured, what's your concern level going into this week for the Bills?
Well, I think it's still pulled up on the thing, so you can't see me.
I'll take it down. Sorry.
But no, I mean, like, it's tough. But I mean, the good news for them is, like, a lot of these guys are, like, listed as full participants all week. So it really does seem like it's just the normal grind of the season, right? It's like nobody's, like, seriously hurt, and that's a positive. So while this list may look very long, like, there's only one guy that's been rolled out. You got a few questionables in there, but it's nothing, nothing that should be super concerning if you're a Bills fan. This is normally what things look like whenever you're going into week 10. I mean, like, you're over halfway through the season. You haven't had a bye week. Guys are banged up. Guys are nicked up. And technically, like I said, they seem to be taking this very seriously, right? Like, if you have any type of, like, bruise or soreness or anything, you're getting listed on that report, even though you're full participants in practices and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't see it as, like, super concerning. I think Keon Coleman, that could be, like, a bigger one. The one that I would really be looking at too, like, because we already know that Keon Coleman is out, is the Amari Cooper injury as well, if he's down, and Curtis Samuel. So if you're down all those guys, you've really got, like, Khalil Shakir and, the who's who of who's at wide receiver, and that could play a role. So I'll be really interested to see if Amari Cooper does end up playing, if Curtis Samuel does end up playing. I have a feeling that they're probably going to gut it out. They have a bye week coming up here relatively shortly. So if they can gut out, a few more games and get that bye week, then, that's what I anticipate. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but hey, shout out to the medical staff, man, too. They got all hands on deck over there. I mean, it is what it is, but we won't get into that conversation. That's another talk for another day. But yes, getting to the meaty part of the schedule. Of course, you're going to get banged up throughout this part of the season. Going into this game, of course, we got a lot to talk about. I think we should start with the Indianapolis Colts first. It's the most important part. The offense of last week was abysmal. This they have a chance to redeem themselves. Of course, it doesn't really it doesn't really change the outlook of the season because of the late switch with the quarterback change. Of course, the game plan still not fully changed, and you don't have an off season to develop it and things of that nature. But it should look a little bit more polished, in my opinion. But this defense for the Bills isn't no slouch. I think it's a pretty good defense as well, especially against the run. Going against the team Joe
Actually, it's the
Flacco.
exact opposite. They're
You think
actually
the opposite?
they're actually pretty abysmal against the run. I believe they rank near the bottom of the league in run defense. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say I'd have to look at it, but off the top of my head, I want to say they're 26th in run defense. So yeah, they're actually not very. That's like the huge weak part of their defense. I know too. They brought in two new defensive tackles over like the last week and activated them to the roster. Like you don't really see that whenever you're bringing guys off the streets and then you're actually activating them to your active roster and they're both defensive tackles. So like what that tells me is like if they're not dealing with like serious injuries at that spot, like they're looking for answers on the interior to help them out in the run game. So yeah, I mean we'll get into it here in a minute, but yeah, I just want to clarify, like, yeah, like they're very vulnerable in the run game. So this will be really curious. This will be a good like litmus test of like where this offense is at on the ground.
Absolutely. And that goes into this conversation with Joe Flacco and Shane Steichen's scheme going up against the Buffalo Bills. Of course, things are kind of limited with Flacco in the pocket. The RPOs and the QB reads, and him even running the football. Of course, it kind of limits the run game as well, like Jonathan Taylor, that nature. But as Landon mentioned, the run defense kind of lackluster for the Buffalo Bills. It could be a sense of change this week. I'm still 50-50 on it. Even though they might be ranked low, they might have a good day, a good field day, especially with the Colts still trying to find their own. I mean, nothing's easy with Indianapolis, but what's your thoughts on the game plan for the Colts going into this week?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of need like a throwback game plan, very similar to how like they attacked the Buffalo Bills the last time they played. And um with Carson Wentz, or well, no, not Carson Wentz. I can't remember who was it. Carson Wentz, was that the season? JT had 5 touchdowns in that game.
Or what's that, Phillip Rivers?
I don't know. I know River. I know we played them in the postseason with Rivers.
Yeah,
They lost that postseason game, but regardless of who the quarterback was, this seems to be like an ongoing thing.
it was too many quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, geez, you got so many of them; it's hard to keep track. But yeah, they need a throwback game plan, kind of similar to that one, where they just need to pound the ball down their throat. And that's what I was meaning by like this is a very good like litmus test about where the Colts offense is with Joe Flacco, because as we've seen previously, Jonathan Taylor is averaging like a hair under 3.5 yards a carry with Joe Flacco in the lineup. And this is across multiple games now. This isn't just like a last week thing. This is multiple games this has happened. And then with Anthony Richardson in the game, he's averaging over 5 yards a carry. So like that is a huge difference. And the Bills do struggle to defend the run. So with Joe Flacco, is this finally the game that you can hang your hat on? Hey, we're going to give JT the ball 25, 30 times, get him, that many touches, let him carry the offense for us, and ride him like the difference maker he is. Because if your game plan is the same as last week, where he's not playing at the end of the fourth quarter in a close game, then like this is another, like I said earlier in the week, like this is another damning statement on the coaching staff of why is your best player not out on the field. And you clearly have a team in the Buffalo Bills that are struggling against the one thing your best player does almost better than anybody in the league outside of Derrick Henry, and that's running the football. And if you cannot get him the adequate touches and try to expose that weakness, then what are we doing? Like if he comes out slinging the ball with Joe Flacco 45, 50 times in this game, like that's not really playing to the strengths of what the Colts want to do, and it's not playing to the strengths or the weaknesses of what the Bills defense wants to do. So for me, it's very simple. You have to run the ball. You have to be effective. You can't average 3 yards a carry against this defense in the run game. And if this is what they're going to end up doing, then like if this is what ends up happening against this defense and the struggles they've had in the run game, then I have a feeling like things are not going to get any easier whenever you're facing the Jets next week, who still have a really talented defense, regardless of their offensive struggles. It's a talented defense. The Lions the week after that, who to me right now, even with Kansas City, I think the Lions are the best team in football right now. Yeah, it's like this is the game you need to start finding an identity. And that's the biggest thing with me with this offense with Joe Flacco, is this team has no identity. It was the same thing with Anthony Richardson. Like they didn't have an identity. You had Anthony Richardson out there who, as we know, struggles to throw the football. He's throwing the ball 35, 40 times, and you're not utilizing the quarterback run game. Like, what is your identity in that? And then it's almost the exact reverse last week, where they're running the ball constantly on first and second downs and getting in, and then Joe Flacco is not getting into rhythm. You can't complete passes, 56% completion percentage, because that's the end all be all, as we know, of what makes a quarterback good. You have to have over 60% completion percentage. Joe Flacco did not have that last week. It was just abysmal. And it's like the game plan for one is the exact opposite of what it needs to be. So, I mean, obviously it's all week to week, and we know this. Like, you're not going to, but the Colts, like, what's the one thing they do well that at the end of the day, whenever Joe Flacco's struggling or Jonathan Taylor's struggling or something like that, like, what's the one thing you can hang your hat on and like, hey, if we just do this, we can find a way to still have success because this is our bread and butter. We do this better than anybody in the league. The Colts don't have that. They don't have an identity on offense. They don't know what they're doing any given week. So it's hard to have success on offense when you're playing like that. And that's just kind of where they're at. So yeah, if they want to win this game, you got to feed JT the ball. You need a vintage 2021 5-touchdown Jonathan Taylor game against the Buffalo Bills. And if they don't do that, it's hard to see coming out of this week, with a victory to me.
Yeah, they got to figure something out too, because they back at home this week, and we know Colts fans, they don't care about what's going on. If you playing bad or if anything happens, they're gonna boo. They're gonna boo.
They
So
might boo at the start of the game just in general. I mean, like
I know.
You might get booed coming out of the tunnel in this game. And here's the other crucial part of like why this game is so important. So if the Colts win this game, they get back to 500. They still have a 52% chance on making the postseason. If they lose this game and you go 2 games under 500 and you're in week 10, teams that have a losing record going in to like from week 10 on, you have a 23% chance. 23% chance. Or maybe a little bit higher than that, but I know it's in the 20s chance of making the postseason. So you got a 1 in 4
20, shot. If it's 20, I ain't counting it.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's a big struggle. Like if you lose this game, you've got a huge mountain to climb. And then, like I said, it doesn't get any easier the next 2 weeks because you got the Jets, who, with all their struggles earlier in the season, we saw what things could look like last week. Whenever they won their game, and they still have a lot of talent on that roster. And then after that, you got the freaking Detroit Lions. And also, too, after that game, after the Detroit game, the schedule lightens up a little bit. But you know how many teams have won a football game after playing the Detroit Lions? 0. 0 this year. If you've played the Detroit Lions, you have lost the next football game. And so that, like, they beat you up. They beat you up.
They embarrass teams you physically, like, really bad.
And yeah, dude, it's hard. It is hard to recover the week after you're playing the Lions. So you can really dig if you don't win this game and then you proceed to lose the next 2, or even worst case scenario, the next 3, your season's toast. You're done. You have virtually no shot at even making a wild card spot. So yeah, this is a very important game. And I feel like we say this every week with this team, because they can't seem to get their footing. Like every game is important whenever you're constantly hovering around 500 football, because it's either going to swing you very hard in one direction or it's going to swing you in the opposite direction. So every game you don't have a cushion, right? Like you don't have a game where it's like, oh, we dropped this game, but we're still 7-3 or something like that. So where, if we drop this game, it's okay. We're still in good position to make the postseason. This team doesn't have that, and they haven't had that really in the Chris Ballard era, outside of the Philip Rivers year, with COVID. So every game's of like the most important right now. I mean, like I don't know how much I can stress that. Like you cannot lose this football game. You can't.
I agree. You know how I tell you, man. Everybody can't be Philip Rivers, man. Everybody can't be Philip Rivers. That will never be replaced. And to each his own. Worst case scenario. Even though they're
I hate that 1 year had to happen during COVID, where like nobody was at the stadium and no fans could enjoy it. You had like the media Zoom calls, so you couldn't be in the locker room. Like that sucks so bad. And I've said that before, but I mean, it just sucks so bad because Philip Rivers, like that seems like to be the last really good, fun season this Colts team has had was in 2020, and nobody was able to enjoy it. It just sucks. And nobody was able to really get to know and enjoy Philip Rivers, who is one of like the most classic cases of like you hate him when he's on the other team.
Oh
If he's
man,
on your team,
don't get me started.
yeah, I mean, if he's on your team, you love him. He's just like he's the best. And like I would say, really outside of Peyton Manning, maybe even more so just for me personally, even over Andrew Luck. I'm not saying like the player was, but just how much I enjoyed him being a Colt. He might be my second favorite Colts quarterback to listen to and watch
Not a
play.
bad pick.
Not a bad pick. He's something else. He's fun. So
yeah, the dang goat,
man.
Yeah, man. What a time.
But
like I said, they switched it to competitive win now mode. They got a chance to make the playoffs. That's why they changed the quarterback to Joe Flacco, because they feel like they got a chance to make the playoffs, no matter how many wins they get. But like Landa said, if they do happen to drop these games and miss the playoff, we get to get that good old Chris Ballard presser at the end of the season and his thoughts about how everything went.
Is this where you wait on me to?
Yeah.
I feel like I can like quote this because I've heard it for each of like the last 4 years.
Absolutely. I think we can all say it in unison at the same time.
Yeah, look, guys, look, you know me. I'm not gonna shy away. I'm gonna stand up here, and I didn't do enough. I didn't do a good enough job, and that's on me. And this is what we believe. And if you don't stand for something, then you fall for everything. So put it on me. Hey, you know me. Yeah,
this sucks. This freaking sucks. Yeah. Well, I think we're all looking forward to that.
Yeah. Yes. Every January, like you can schedule it in.
Yep. Hey, man. But like I said, the Colts got a chance to do it, man. They got a chance to redeem themselves this week. It's not going to be easy, but they do have a chance. They haven't had a win in a few weeks. So it's a clean slate. You're 0-0 right now. Let's just focus on the game ahead. And we got to look at the bright spot before we actually, let's talk about this first. Michael Pittman Jr. missing this game, of course. We talked about how pivotal the run game could be, but the offensive flow might be a little bit, I would say, quicker with the flow. Michael Pittman Jr. is gone. He was banged up, but you got a little faster pace with Pierce, A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs. Might get the tight ends involved a little bit more. What's your thoughts about the wide receivers going into this game? We know you mentioned A.D. Mitchell without Michael Jr.
You mentioned the flow.
Yeah.
Shout out to Seth the Flow, 2024 Colts Fan of the Year. Shout out to that dude every week, man. Like, yeah, you can bring me all you want, but he is like, I know, like I made a joke a couple weeks ago. I was like, read the room, Seth, and people got like they jumped all over me. But I want to make my position very clear. I love that dude. He's such a bright spot in the Colts community. He's such a beacon of hope every week. Like if there's one thing that we can look forward to every week, it's that we get a Colts anthem. And no matter what, like the song says, whether win or lose, we loved him. So shout out to Seth, 2024 Colts fan of the year. Couldn't happen to a better individual. He's fun. So as far as the game goes now. Jeez. All right.
Yep. Shout out
Sorry.
to Seth.
Yeah, that's my phone going off. As far as the game goes with the wide receiver core, like I said, I feel like in a weird, and this is so weird to say this about like Michael Pittman Jr., but it's just really because he's been so banged up and he hasn't really been able to play at his normal level. This is what I was saying is it could be good for both sides. Like this could be addition by subtraction by him taking a break and getting himself right, which is where he needs to focus on right now. This could allow somebody like an AD Mitchell who is healthy, who does have the ability to separate, to step into that role. Obviously, Ashton Doolin, he can step into that role as well. We've talked about it before. So, yeah, in a weird way, this might actually be beneficial for the Colts based on the way like Pittman has been playing due to injury. This might be beneficial for both sides to say, hey, we're going to get somebody healthier, somebody who's able to play up the speed, can still create that separation, can still, catch these footballs. Meanwhile, you're able to kind of get yourself right and take care of your body and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the one area of this team really outside of like defensive line where I feel really good about the depth that they have out there with, we didn't even talk about Josh Downs, and we know how great of a player he is. Alec Pierce has had his moments this season where he's kind of been able to take over certain games. Doolin's played good. Adonai Mitchell, to me, that's the key. If they are going to throw the football, they really need to get him involved. It has to be a concerted effort to get him involved. It can't just be, he ran 3 routes and he, dropped a pass on one of the routes. Let's get him out of the game. No, you have to keep feeding him chances. You have to make a concerted effort to get the ball in his hands because he does have that ability to separate at a high level. And the more chances you give a guy like that, eventually one of them is going to hit. You're going to hit one. And that one play, very similar to like Alec Pierce, that one play has the opportunity to flip an entire game. And he's not going to be able to do that if he's sitting there watching on the sideline. Even Reggie Wayne came out and said it this week where they asked Reggie Wayne and he said he needs reps. He needs to be in the game more. And Reggie, obviously, I'm going to trust what Reggie thinks about wide receivers more than maybe anybody else. Hall of Famer. So he's got to play. He's got to get the reps. He needs to be on the field. If Pittman's not going to be out there, as much as I love Ashton Doolin and what he can give you, there's a reason you drafted Adonai Mitchell in the 2nd round. And he needs to be maybe the second option in the passing game outside of Josh Downs. I think Josh Downs clearly needs to be wide receiver 1 on this team. Maybe even with Pittman in, Josh Downs is wide receiver 1 in my eyes. But if he's not going to be out there, it needs to be Josh Downs. It needs to be Adonai Mitchell. And those need to be the 2 guys that you pepper with targets. And then, of course, you still have your shots to Alec Pierce. That, you're not going to go away from that. But he's much more indicative of what you get when a guy like Anthony Richardson, where you're taking normally you take 3 to 4 of those shots a game. And whenever Richardson was in the game, it seems like they were taking 20 to 23 shots like that a game. And that's what kind of buoys Pierce's value, where you're probably not playing that way with Joe Flacco. You're going to play a lot more quick game, separation, get the ball out on time, in rhythm, all that kind of stuff. And to me, that plays a lot more into Adonai Mitchell than it does Alec Pierce. So, yeah, get on the field. It's time to grow, time to learn. And I know that's not the theme, right?
I was about to say there's a rep thing going on in Indy that a lot of people ain't getting.
If you use the term development in the Colts complex these days, it seems like you get burned at the stake like a witch because we're not about developing anymore. This is about win now. But it just is what it is. He's got to play.
I agree. There's a lot of people that need to play. But I agree with you.
There's one very big individual in this play.
Yeah, I think Colts fans know what we're talking about when we mention that.
I think the
But
Vikings organization knows what we're talking
shout out to O'Connell.
about. Beautiful.
Shout out to O'Connell.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man. But I agree with you with the Reggie Wayne part. He knows what he's talking about. He did mention Josh Downs being a dog, and he shows it every play he gets. So Reggie Wayne definitely knows ball, and that's no question. But uh, before we head to the defense, Joe Flacco just has to play Joe Flacco this week. Of course, like I gave him some slack last week because I said it was a late night game. It was past his bedtime. He's a little sleepy. This game, the sun is out. It's gonna be bright. It might be a little cloudy, but it's a little bit of light outside, so he might get a better production from Joe Flacco. So it should be an interesting one. But heading to the defense, the most important part, besides the offense trying to figure it out, the defense had a good week last week. Of course, it didn't end where we wanted, just due to them being exhausted because of on the field all day due to the poor offensive production. But the defense has another week to redeem themselves to have another good impact week. Like I said, they got DeForest, they got Grover. The D line should be able to do D line work. But going into the secondary linebacker core, Zaire Franklin heard you last week. So of course I got to give you the pivot to who do you need to talk to have a good week, because hey, you said not to listen to you, but they listened to you last week, so I'm gonna listen to you this week.
So for me, like it's to me, this week is all about the safeties, right? This is both. It's not like a single player. It's about the group as a whole. This is about Julian Blackmon. This is about Nick Cross. Nick Cross been playing phenomenal football. Julian Blackmon has had his moments. I think he needs, to take another step and to really make that full impact. But there's one thing that we know that Josh Allen does, and that's create. And he creates and throws the ball deep better than almost any quarterback in football. And if your safeties aren't disciplined in that, then that's what allows those super explosive plays deep down the field whenever he's heading out towards the sideline and he looks and flips it back 60 yards to the other side of the field. If you're not playing very disciplined football from the safety spot, that can really be where he hurts you at. So to me, if they have any chance, you want to basically play into what the Colts ask them to do, right? Which is check the ball down, take the easy completions. We'll give you 3-yard passes. We'll give you 5-yard passes. But you playing against Josh Allen, you can't allow the 30-yard passes, the 60-yard passes, these explosive plays down the field. If they do that, they will lose this game. Like if you allow Josh Allen to get loose and uncork some of these bombs, it's hard to play defense and recover like that. So to me, that's why this week the safeties are going to be my key on defense for this game. Specifically, I think Julian Blackmon really needs to have a big game this week. So, calls a couple turnovers, and that's not something Josh Allen's done, as opposed to like previous years where you've been able to get, a couple picks off of him, turn the ball over at a relatively high rate. I mean, of course, it's fine. You're going to live with 16 turnovers whenever you're accounting for 40 touchdowns, right? Like, but this year it seems like he's still on pace for like the 40 touchdowns, but he's also on pace to throw like 4 interceptions the whole year. So you're going to have to create turnovers, and that's something largely this defense has been great at over the last month. They've been great at making those plays and turning the ball over. They've been great in the red zone, not allowing touchdowns. They're not allowing a ton of points. I want to say over the last month, I think we talked about this earlier in the week. If you look at like EPA, points allowed, all that kind of stuff, they're only giving up like 17 points a game. They're top 10 in the entire NFL over the last month as a whole, as a unit. They're top 5 in turnovers. They're top 10 in points scored. They're top 8 in EPA per play given up. So those are all great numbers. And it gives you a chance to win every week. And like I said, we need to credit these guys on defense. We need to credit Gus Bradley and the coaching staff for switching things up, being more aggressive. Like they're not just blitzing on third downs late in the game, changing stuff up. They're blitzing on early downs. They're forcing guys to kind of switch things up a little bit. So credit to them. They deserve it. This is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one, especially there is the one area that the Colts do seem to struggle in is with the tight end game, especially, those linebackers.
They got 2 of them over there.
Yeah, exactly. The linebackers in coverage, seem to really kind of struggle in that area a little bit. So last week, we need more of the same. Like with Zaire, he was fantastic last week. You gotta have another week like that. You gotta keep stacking weeks. So this is not the game to yo-yo, right? You can't have the extreme highs and then fall right back down to the pit. Um, Maybe you could use Nick Cross a little bit more on those, coming down into the box and covering those tight ends a little bit. I think that's something that he could be really utilize that. And then maybe Julian Blackman, you're allowing him to roam a little bit more free back there. If Cross is playing robber or lurk or whatever. Um, there's a lot of ways they can attack things, but on the flip side of things, all bets are off when you have a guy like Josh Allen. I mean, like that's the key for the Bills every single week. I mean, every single week you ask like, who's the player that you're highlighting this week? Well, for the Bills, it's pretty easy because it's always Josh Allen. He's that incredible. It's 17 back there playing quarterback. So yeah, we'll see. I saw like the comment that they had made where like DeForest Buckner, they asked him in the interview about Richardson going up against the first team defense in practice this week, trying to give them a little bit more of like what Josh Allen they'll see against Josh Allen. And like it reminded me of that old saying is like a Chrysler 300 always looks like a Bentley until a Bentley pulls up next to it. Like that's what really it reminded me of is like you're gonna think about getting the looks of Josh Allen with a guy like Anthony Richardson in practice until you've got to play Josh Allen on Sunday. And then that's where it's like, okay, this is the real thing. Like this is the Bentley, right? And it's tough. It's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, man, he is a dynamic quarterback for sure. Of course, you can see some type of similarities when it comes to arm strength, things of nature, but Josh Allen's a different breed, man. Like we've seen it plenty of times, Colts fans, when we matched up against him. And he just gets better and better as the
I
year
mean,
go
if
by.
Lamar Jackson wasn't doing what he's doing once again this year, every year, like incredible. By the way, if you didn't watch Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow last night,
It was a movie yesterday.
incredible. Lamar Jackson, dude. Like still, how does this guy have 2 MVPs and is still underrated, it feels like? I mean, maybe it's the postseason thing. Like, I don't know, but he's an incredible football player, man. But yeah, I mean, outside of Lamar Jackson, like Josh Allen really has.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, I mean, he's right up there in MVP talks. Like he's been that great.
And just, both of those guys are very consistent. And the fact that when you realize how they started to where they are now, the development process, I did that on purpose. But just letting them get their time to figure themselves out and
Yeah,
actually
thanks.
and letting them pan out to
Yes.
what they can be is just an amazing process, isn't it? Because we remember Josh Allen, starting off, he used to throw a lot of interceptions, and it was rough.
I mean, even in his great years, he's always thrown a lot of interceptions, right? But with him, like the first 2 years, I mean, I don't think they're very similar situations though. Like I really don't. Like they're two very, very and like I've argued this because I've seen the Josh Allen comparison a lot, based on just like the physical skill set. But they're two like very different situations. As far as where they are in terms of playing football coming into the NFL, like Josh Allen played a lot of like he played at the community college level, then he went to Wyoming, played a lot of football out there. Then he gets to the NFL, didn't sit, played a lot of football his first 2 years, and it wasn't good. Like it was borderline bad. Like actually not borderline. Like it was bad. Like it was bad. But I mean, he had a ton of reps. Like he got a ton of reps. And then finally, and shout out to like Tom House and those guys. I believe it was like 3D QB is where he worked out at with House about um, basically the marriage of the lower half to the upper half as far as accuracy and stuff. Like he worked super, super hard on that. And it really transformed him going into his third year. Like he just ascended unlike any player that we've ever seen. We've never seen a guy going from as that bad to that good that quickly. Like it was pretty crazy. So
It was, man. And he's a fan of Anthony Richardson too,
Lamar
man.
is way different. Like Lamar, I mean, Lamar Jackson won the Heisman. Like, I mean, like, what are we doing? Like, Lamar Jackson did not like struggle whenever he was in college. Like he's set behind Joe Flacco. Actually, he's set for his first year. He got in towards the end of the season, but then after that point, he took off. Like literally, he took off the first year fully starting in the NFL. He won MVP, and that was like 2 or 3 years removed from winning the Heisman Trophy. Like he has always been, from the moment he set foot on a football field, he's always been the best player on the field. So he was like that in high school too. Like if you watch some of his old high school tape down in Florida, best player on the field. I mean, he's just one of the best football players, to me personally, one of the best football players that I've ever watched play football. And it's a joy watching him every week. So hopefully we get to see that in a Colts uniform in 2025, because we know it ain't going to be in 2024. Maybe they switch. Like maybe this could be a blessing in disguise. Like maybe if they lose this game, they lose the Jets game, and they lose the Lions game. And maybe if you've dropped like 5 games in a row with Joe
That's a good point.
Like, what do you have to lose? Because at that point, you're not fighting for a playoff spot. Like, can we get some reps then? Like, if they drop the next few games and they're out of the playoff picture, and they continue to roll Joe Flacco out there, you want to see somebody go nuclear on the internet? Why don't you tune into the show after the Lions game? Like tune into that show. I will lose my mind. I will lose it.
And we need the 2023 reps too, not this new stuff. We need the 2023 reps because Anthony Richardson was going crazy.
Like, just get him out there. Like, Jesus.
I agree. I don't know if you guys watched the Pat McAfee show, but Josh Allen did praise him while he was on there. Shout out to my guy Noah. He clipped it. Said Josh Allen on AR, would he allow him to take the necessary steps to get where he is at now? The more reps you get in the NFL, especially, things are going to start to slow down. I'm a big fan of AR. Hopefully he can learn and grow from the situation.
Oh, wow. Who would have thought? Playing the NFL, playing football, you get better at football by playing football. I know that seems to be like a
crazy thought.
Yeah, foreign concept over in some situations. But yeah, it is what it is. I feel like we can harp on this every week, but it's not doing anybody any good right now. So.
Especially you.
It's the bane of my existence right now. It's just constant. How do you just screw this up so bad? Like, sheesh. But maybe they come out. Maybe they go on a run. Like that's the thing.
That's what I was thinking.
It's like football's such a weird sport. Like maybe last week was like the mirage, right? And maybe they win against Buffalo and they win against the Jets, and maybe they do end up going on a run and like they beat Detroit, and then your schedule lightens up and you've won 3 in a row, and if you got your bye week to get healthy, your schedule gets a little easier. You're 2 games above 500. And then they look like geniuses. And then I'm sitting here on the internet looking like a moron, which is normally the case, right? That's normally how it goes.
You don't even try sometimes.
What?
I said you don't even try sometimes.
Hey, I mean, even a broken clock's right twice a day. So that I occasionally have my good stuff, but yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, this is all got to play out in real time. And we will react to it in real time. I mean, that's what it is. That's what we do. The information you get tomorrow is not the information that you have today. The information you have today is not the information you had yesterday. So, we react as things happen, and, we're able to form opinions on that. But going into this game, man, it's a big one. It's a big one because it really does indicate, if they come out and play like they did last week and they have another stinker and the offense just looks completely inept, at that point it is kind of like, okay, like, you didn't play great against Tennessee. You didn't, you had your, the good game was in Jacksonville, right? You had the great performance in Jacksonville, but now, you kind of struggled through 2 quarters of the Steelers game. They only had 1 touchdown drive. He only led 1 touchdown drive. The rest of that Steelers game after Richardson went out, if you want to give him the red zone throw that he came in for and made, that's fine. I mean, I'll sure, whatever. We're parsing hairs there, but um, you struggled against Tennessee, you struggled last week. If you struggle again, that's what 3.5 games out of the 5 games you played, and that's kind of worrisome. So we'll see.
I agree. A lot of people say quarterbacks that get an age and they hit them with the father time's knocking at the door. No, father time is there. Father time is there for Joe Flacco. Like he's at that age. Like he's old. So
Hey, let's relax a little bit, okay? Father
sorry.
time ain't even 40 yet, bro. He's still in his 30s. That's not old.
39.
Let's relax. It's not.
Yeah, sure. He's in his 30s, like late 30s, super late 30s, so late. He's like this close to hitting 40, this close, like just a thin hair.
So before we go, I did ask earlier in the week, just I said, hey, like, let's cleanse the timeline out a little bit. Let's get some fun talk now because everybody's losing their mind on social media these over the last few days. I said, hey, what are some issues that you would like us to touch on or questions that you want answered? So we did have some comments. The first one from Hans. He said, why are they doing this to us? I said,
that was very blunt. Very blunt.
I wish I had an answer. Wish I had an answer for it. It was really like a lot of people just complaining, right? It was a lot of questions. We had like, one of the questions says, where is Chris Ballard? I don't know. I don't know his schedule. Imagine he's probably sitting in his office right now. Why is Ballard still employed? Once again, I've got nothing for you there. I apologize. But we did get some good questions, right? So questions that I can actually answer. Namely, like, what are the chances we see AD get more snaps? He seems like he's more ready to go than Michael Pittman Jr. right now. I think you probably got your answer, right? With them rolling Pittman out.
Right.
So at this point, it basically comes down to, like I said, it comes down to the coaching staff on if they want to roll Doolin out like they did last week, or if they want to give AD Mitchell the reps. And Reggie Wayne said this week, hey, the guy needs reps. He's got to get out on the field. So to me, just by judging from Reggie Wayne's reaction, judging from them being comfortable with holding Pittman out of this game, I think there's a very good chance that you see AD Mitchell get more than 6 reps or, whatever he's been averaging here. How can we get Anthony Richardson to start again? I kind of answered that earlier. Like if they drop 5 in a row with Flacco.
There it is.
But he did say, jokes aside, this is from Braden. He said, jokes aside, where do we realistically stand if Flacco plays the rest of the season, playoffs, draft position, etc.? And how much does Flacco versus AR affect aspects of the game outside of completion percentage? So realistically, to me, this is just my opinion. I'll let Marcus give you his opinion. My opinion is where we realistically stand if Flacco plays the rest of the season. I think you still miss the postseason. I don't think they make the playoffs with Joe Flacco. I don't think this team is Joe Flacco away from being a postseason team. You're probably going to win a few more games, right? You might win 9 games, 8 games. That might be enough to push you in towards the end of the wild card. But like I said, the next 3 weeks are going to be really telling about where this team is at. And starting this week with Buffalo and then going into the Jets, which thank God that game got moved out of prime time. I don't even talk about that, but sheesh. If I had to watch that game on Sunday Night Football, I would have been calling it an early night. But then you got the Lions right after that. So the next 3 games, it's going to tell us a lot about what their chances really are. This is the reason they made the move. And if they come out looking like they got mud on their face, then everybody looks bad. Everybody looks bad. Another one from Brandon here. He says, why was the run game attempted more with Flacco than Anthony Richardson? It's a great question. Really, I think that stuff usually boils down to like matchups. right? Like, I don't think it's necessarily like, as much as we like to make fun of it, I don't think it's necessarily like, well, Joe Flacco's in the game, let's run the ball. Um, I think it's just matchup based. And I think there's a good chance you probably see a very similar game plan this week. Like, in my eye, that should be the game plan, right? You get uh, a run defense that's really been struggling. You give the ball to Jonathan Taylor, 2 + 2 = 4. The the square goes in the square hole, the circle goes in the circle hole. You don't have to overcomplicate things. Like, let's not get cute. Another one, how did the Colts fix the offense despite who's at quarterback? See, this is a great so like that's a great question, right? If I knew completely the answer to that question, I wouldn't be here on Twitter talking to you guys. I'd probably be coaching somewhere.
Give
So
Jonathan Taylor the ball.
yeah, so like just in my honest opinion, um, it's hard to it's hard to call any type of offense when guys aren't executing. And I think that's really what it boils down to. It's not necessarily like Shane Steichen has got to find a way to get guys into comfortable situations for them, which I think is kind of where he's been struggling at a little bit this year. Because mainly it's not necessarily due to like the play calls being terrible. I think that's part of it, right? Like, I think putting Anthony Richardson in 3rd and long situations consistently, like that's just bad. Like, you're not gonna have success by doing that. You're just not. But then the same thing with Flacco is, I mean, with Joe Flacco, like you watched that game last week, and like I said earlier in the week, like I'm not gonna like sugarcoat things. Like Joe Flacco sucked. Like he was not good. This wasn't a good game for him. But at the same time, we can also ask, like, okay, we do this every week. Where are the guys stepping up? Where are the guys stepping up for their quarterback? Who is out there making plays for their quarterback? Um, the answer so far has really been nobody. They didn't, Josh Downs played 50% of the snaps. That can't happen. Adonai Mitchell barely played. That can't happen. Like, those are the two guys that you have that can create consistent separation against cornerbacks and linebackers and safeties and whoever they're playing against. They create separation at a high level and get open. You have to have those guys on the field for them to be able to do that. And if you're not doing that, there's not guys getting open at a high enough level outside of those two guys. Alec Pierce is great at the deep ball, but he's still kind of seemingly lacking a little bit getting open in that intermediate area of the field, the short area of the field. Maybe this is just like who he is, which is a guy that can impact games, for 1 or 2 plays, and those are huge plays. But outside of that, kind of leaves a little bit to be desired. And that's okay. The Colts still don't have a tight end that's stepped up and made a presence on this team. Where's that guy? So really, like, no matter what offense you're calling, like, if guys aren't out there making plays and executing, like, you're not going to fix anything. I think there needs to be a more concerted effort on getting certain guys on the field in, rotations. Like, I think that's, to me, the biggest fix for the offense is like your personnel packages. Like, you got to find a way to get Josh Downs on the field. You got to find a way to get Adonai Mitchell on the field. That's how you fix your offense, is you get your best playmakers on the field. They're not going to do you any good watching the game. You can interpret that as more than just Josh Downs and, AD Mitchell as well. You're not going to get any better sitting there on the sideline. How do I gain interest for watching Flacco the rest of the season? So that's another great. I've struggled with that. I think, how do you gain interest in watching Joe Flacco?
Watch him on 1st and 2nd down. That's it.
Well, he's actually been like historically like great on 3rd down. Like, it's unsustainable. There was no way he was going to continue to sustain the 3rd down rate that he had. He's actually worse than Anthony Richardson on 1st and 2nd down. But where the difference was made was on 3rd down, like on the money zone, like money downs. Like, he was like led the league in like 3rd down stuff. So that was always going to come back down to earth. And if that continues to be the case, then like what really upside do you have? If he's worse than Anthony Richardson on earlier downs and he's not giving you historical production on third down, what are you getting at it? Really, we saw that last week. That's what you're getting at it. I think for me, if you really want to enjoy watching Joe Flacco, I think you can watch the sorry, my wife texted me. Just lost my train of thought. If you want to enjoy watching Joe Flacco, I think you can watch the pre-snap recognition. You can watch the the post-snap defensive manipulations, that kind of stuff. Really just like old school quarterback stuff. Like if you enjoyed watching people play quarterback in 2004, I feel like you can find a way to watch Joe Flacco play quarterback in 2024. It's going to be up and down. He's going to have games where things do look great. And this is what I was saying last week as well. And I can't answer Rich's question on why Ballard's still employed as well. Jim Irsay's a patient guy, apparently. But Joe Flacco he's going to have this every week, right? Where he's going to have really bad weeks. And I said this on the show earlier in the week. He's going to have really bad weeks where it's going to give the Anthony Richardson guys like myself and Marcus and most Colts fans who want to see Anthony Richardson, right? Like I'd say 80% of Colts fans want to see Anthony Richardson out there. And that's not me. That's just being honest, right? We still got 20% of the fan base that are bench AR. Joe Flacco is going to lead us to the promised land. Maybe less than that. I don't know. But he's going to have games like last week where we're going to be able to come on here and be like, huh, there you go. Like who would have guessed? Like, but on the flip side, the very next week, and maybe it's this week, maybe it's this week with the Bills, maybe it's next week against the Jets, where he's going to play at a high level, and you're going to see these vintage up, and he's been like that his whole career. Well, he'll have 2 or 3 games in a row where he just looks washed. Like even early on in his career when he was young, like he was so just up and down. And you never know what you're going to get. And eventually he's going to have a game like the Jacksonville game where he's in complete control and he's hitting all the throws. And then you're going to get all the bench AR people that are going to be really loud on Twitter and they're going to be able to gloat. So every week, everybody's going to take their turns gloating, right? That's just the nature of social media. One week, you're wearing the clown mask. The other week, you're wearing the crown. That's where we're at with Joe Flacco. So, don't pay attention too much to either side. I think the truth in general lies somewhere in the middle. I think there are things Joe Flacco gives you that are good. There's also things he takes away that are bad, namely like in the running game. So you just have to hope that this week is the good week.
Yeah, let's hope it is, man. It's Sunday. Buffalo Bills take on the Indianapolis Colts in Indy. It should be a good one. We will definitely be back to give you guys the reaction of the game. Hopefully it's a good one. If not, Landon will be preaching to the mass as usual. But you guys have to stay tuned. Follow us on all platforms. We appreciate all the support that you guys do. Also, drop your score predictions of who do you think should, have a bright game or a good game or should step up, things of that nature. Give us your thoughts about Joe Flacco's play and how he should play. Even give us your thoughts on Shane Steichen and how he's been coaching this season and his mindset going into this game. Let us know all these things in the comment section. Follow us on all platforms. You look us up, you name it, we're there. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. That is Landon. This is Marcus. You guys have a safe weekend and enjoy it as well.